Listen, you're not gonna find anything on me, okay? Trust me.
Empty your pockets into the tray, sir, or we'll have to. Your pockets, sir?
Lady, the problem isn't in my pants.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we're at a little bit of a standstill in the industry, so there really isn't anything new, as far as announcements or X-Men comics to review or talk about this week. But the good thing is the X-Men are one of the most popular franchises in all comic books, so there's always plenty of clickbait articles for us to talk about. With me here is X-Men historian, Marvel aficionado, Doc. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, Wes?
I'm doing all right. So like I said, we found some of the creme de la creme of the clickbait articles as far as X-Men go, and we're going to cover, I think, 4 of them today. So the first one is, who is the X-Men's greatest leader of all time? And there are 3 options. There were Cyclops, Storm, and Professor X. Now, this one is pretty easy. Obviously, the greatest X-Men leader of all time is Cyclops.
Oh, yes. And it's really not even in doubt. I have some objections to their logic for how they came to this conclusion in the article, but no, it was good. He is without a doubt the best leader the X-Men have ever had.
But the other 2, I think, are pretty debatable. Storm really wasn't the leader of the X-Men that long, and for me, it just comes down to Charles Xavier. He's like the heart and soul. He's the conscience of the X-Men. He's basically the man that put everything together. He's the one that saw Cyclops as the leader of the X-Men and basically empowered him. And can you go wrong with Xavier is the number 2 greatest X-Men leader of all times?
You can't really go wrong, but I still got to say it's Storm. I think Storm is the is the second greatest leader. She managed to defeat Cyclops in one-on-one battle without her powers. She transformed the team. Charles might be the conscience, but sometimes that conscience leads the X-Men in really, really bad directions. Charlie's not exactly a saint by any stretch of the imagination, whereas Storm I've always felt was a little more, her moral compass was always a little more direct.
I don't know, Doc. She's not exactly a saint either. She did grow up, basically stealing from people, and she pretended to be a goddess, so she wouldn't have to work when she was in Africa.
Well, first of all, she was an orphan, so an orphan in Egypt doesn't exactly your job prospects and your being able to survive kind of limited back there. Not exactly got the world's greatest foster care system. So
I feel like you're giving her a pass for being a criminal.
I'm saying that she was a kid that had nothing else, had no other options. So she got to eat some way. It's one thing if it's an adult, it's another thing for a child.
Well, I'm disappointed. But what about, basically pretending to be a deity? That seems pretty immoral behavior to me.
Well, yeah, but did she really pretend? I mean, look, she's not exactly super familiar with the concept of mutants at that point. She develops the abilities to control the weather. Hey, she just might be a goddess in her. It wasn't until she actually learned about mutants and, superhumans in general that she figured out, oh, wait, I just have powers. It's kind of one of those things where, she didn't really know better. So I'm going to give her a pass on that one too.
Man, you're just the hall monitor letting everybody get by today, but Charles Xavier doesn't get a pass. The man has been through so much. He's watched so many of his children die, Every once in a while, does he make a mistake? Yes. But he always comes back to the side of good. He always ends up doing what's right in the end, except for maybe right now where he seems to have become some type of fascist leader, but
I don't know, man. The guy is let's see, the Danger Room became sentient and he kept it on a leash and caged. Cerebro became sentient and he kept it on a leash and caged. He mind wiped Cyclops that he even had a third brother that Xavier got killed. I mean, the dude's got some serious skeletons.
Why are you talking about old shit?
Why are you talking about old shit?
What, dude? You can't. Don't be turning around this with me. Charles Xavier is a brilliant leader, a tactician, and it is a wonderfully kind man. And if without him, Cyclops and Storm would be nothing. There, I said it.
Yeah, and when Cyclops was too busy running off to go play, because Jean came back, Charlie decided that it was a time to go take a honeymoon in space for the next 10 years. Storm didn't even have powers, and she took over. She ran the X-Men.
Well, obviously, I'm not changing your mind, but in the end, Cyclops is without a doubt, and it's not even in question, the greatest X-Men leader of all times. Now, there's another clickbait article talking about the 15 actors who could portray Wolverine in the MCU, and I'm going to be honest. This list is a pile of garbage. We've got, what do we got? Daniel Radcliffe, absolutely not. Brad Pitt, far too old. Ben Affleck, too old and too enormous. Justin Theroux, second-rate Ryan Gosling. Who else is in here? Taron Edgerton would be a good choice if he wasn't, in his 20s. There's no reason to have it.
He'd be great for Jimmy Hudson.
Yeah,
he's not Wolverine.
he's too young to be a Wolverine. John Bernthal, already a Marvel character in the Daredevil Netflix universe. Who else? Oh, Daphne Keane. She's X-23 already. No need to be Wolverine. Lame ass choice. Jason Momoa. Too enormous and too Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy, he's already Venom. This is, like I said, there's some really stupid ones. Joaquin Phoenix, absolutely. That was the most ridiculous one. And Keanu Reeves was the number one choice, and that's actually a good one, but he's too old now. So if he had done that 15 years ago, he would have been a good choice. So I kind of settled on 3 people, out of this list of 15 that were the least bad. And actually, one of them I think is actually pretty good. Joel Edgerton, who was in The Gift and Warrior, Andrew Lincoln from Walking Dead fame, and Charlie Hunnam from The Sons of Anarchy. What do you think about my choices?
I think Andrew Lincoln is way too tall and skinny, and he just doesn't really give me that. I mean, Andy's too British, but he just doesn't give me that Wolverine ruthlessness. Charlie Hunnam, again, he'd be a great.
He's too man pretty. I know he's too man pretty, but he was pretty awesome in Arthur, Legend of the Sword. If he didn't want a Excalibur story, it was good.
Yeah, but I still think he'd be another one that's good for Jimmy Hudson, but not really Logan. Now Joel Edgerton,
he's not tall, and he's buffed as hell in that movie.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll give you that, but he's still blonde.
Listen, dude, hair dye ain't nothing but a trip down the aisle at Target, man.
You know what? If we're gonna let CVS do all of the costume work on this, then I mean, I guess that works. But you know what? The one that I really do agree with you on this is Joel Edgerton. I didn't see The Gift, but I loved Warrior. It was a great movie. He had that really rough, gruff ruthlessness to him that I think would work perfect.
I couldn't agree with you more. He was absolutely the best choice in all of it. I loved his work in Warrior. He actually kind of upstaged Tom Hardy in a very memorable role, which I didn't think was really possible. He was also pretty darn good in, I think he was it Zero Dark 30?
Yeah.
The Osama bin Laden story. So he's easily the best choice. He kind of has the look. He's not a huge guy, but you can tell he could probably fill out. You saw him in the Warrior movie. And man, I think he would be a really good MCU Wolverine, if I'm being honest.
You know what? He wouldn't be bad. I think he would work very well. The other guy that we didn't talk about that's on this list is Oscar Isaac. Excluding the fact that he's already been Apocalypse. He's a pretty good actor, except for the fact that, well, I mean, first, he's a little too, Mediterranean. Anytime he is in a movie, I find that he's good and the movie is effing terrible. Every choice that he makes in what projects to go to, it's a guarantee that it's going to be a bad movie. He'll be great in it. It will be a bad movie. His
first foray into Marvel was pretty bad. That Age of Apocalypse was Like it wasn't quite X3, but it was pretty damn close.
Well, and all three of the Star Wars movies were pretty awful. He was all right as Poe, but the rest
Why'd
of
you
them,
bring that up, man?
Hey, man. Look, they were still bad movies.
I don't think Oscar Isaac is even eligible, because he was Apocalypse, but I think Joel Edgerton's the one.
I think so too. I mean, out of the 15 people that they named on here, 13 or 14 of them were pretty much just easily written off. Joel Edgerton is probably the best one of a terrible, terrible list.
I agree. So the next one article we have to talk about is X-Men, the excluded mutants who are not on Krakoa yet. And they name off a lot of mutants that aren't there. Pete Wisdom. We've got Maverick, Madeline Pryor, Cannonball, Molly Hayes, Namor. I think there's a couple more in there, but you get the gist. What are your thoughts? What one of those mutants deserves to be on Krakoa tomorrow?
Pete Wisdom's the guy that would have been perfect for that X-Force team. Same with Maverick, to be perfectly honest. Both of them would have been good, but Maverick's a pretty bland character. Granted, Pete Wisdom's nothing more than Warren Ellis's self-insert character that he puts into everything. We're already getting Madeline Pryor in Hellions. Cannonball shows up. He doesn't need to be on Krakoa because he's on Chandalar and they have a Krakoan gateway, literally like basically in his house. Why does he need to be there?
The one that interests me the most is Namor. They introduced him, kind of in House of X Powers of 10. And I kind of assumed that he was going to be the big bad guy the Marauders were going to have to deal with while traversing the Seven Seas. But we really haven't heard from him since. Man, bring Namor back. That is a great character, completely misused by Marvel.
I would agree to some extent. The only problem is it's going to bring back way too many memories, at least for me, of the Extinction Team era of X-Men, where with Kieran Gillen and Jason Aaron basically running the ship for the X-Men, and I really hated that era. The last thing you need is another Namor involved with the X-Men on an island. They already did this 10 years ago, and it was on Utopia.
Well, wouldn't you want it done right this time?
Except for I have no faith at this point that they would do it right.
Well, Jerry Duggan is writing the Marauders. What if they decided to put him on the X-Force?
Okay, I could see Ben Percy doing it, but he'd fit more for Marauders or X-Men. Molly Hayes is actually a little interesting to me, mostly because we've seen little hints of her eventually becoming a member of the X-Men. Granted, most of them were from Bendis's really terrible run on X-Men. They've always been a hint that she's eventually going to be an X-Man. And so maybe bring her off of, pretty objectively terrible book in the current version of Runaways and actually putting her on the X-Men would be interesting.
I don't know. I saw that cover where she was basically hovering over Wolverine and kind of making him look like a sissy with her enormous size. And that kind of turned me off to the idea of Molly Hayes being anywhere near the X-Men.
Okay, that's fair enough. But I still blame Rainbow Rowell for that.
Well, the cover, she's not the artist. The cover artist is the one who did it. Who was the cover artist? How would I know? Because I don't really read Runaways, and I'm sure they, pick some Z-list person off of Tumblr. So you're not interested in Madeline Pryor ending up on Krakoa, or do you think she's already been there?
I think she has already been there. She's also showing up in Hellions. Like, she's going to end up in Krakoa sooner or later if they don't kill her, in this upcoming Hellions. She got cameoed at the end of the first issue of Hellions. So she's eventually, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they end up taking her prisoner and she ends up back on Krakoa.
Doc, you make some great points. I'm going to stick with my story and say I want Namor to be there. I think he'd be a great foil for Charles and Magneto. Wouldn't it be great if Namor was the only voice of sanity? It'd be so weird.
It would be, but I still like the idea of Pete Wisdom having an actual intelligence officer running their intelligence division.
Well, that is a good point. So the last article we have is it talks about X-Men concept art revealed that were rejected through the Dark Phoenix costumes. Basically, Dave Cockrum went through several different versions of the Dark Phoenix costume before he settled on the red and gold outfit. What do you think of these? Did they make a mistake by not going with some of these other designs?
You know what though? I maybe I didn't like the blue design. It was a little too, felt like it would have fit better in Legion of Superheroes.
Like Starfire or something?
Yeah, exactly. Than X-Men. Hell, it could have been a Shi'ar Imperial Guard. It would have worked on as well. Not really it didn't really give me Phoenix feeling. Now the white costume, the interesting part is that they did eventually use that. Grant Morrison used it at the end of the Here Comes Tomorrow arc that finished off his new X-Men run. And Jean became a white Phoenix of the Crown, and she wore the white costume. So they did, one of the white costumes.
Hopefully it was the one in the middle, because that's easily the best one, man. That was great.
That one is the best one, but that is not the one she wore. She basically wore the one on the far left. Yeah, the first one. Now they did change the whole, because the one thing even that all of these had that they were missing is that big Phoenix logo across that kind of took up the whole torso and went out to almost onto her shoulders. Now the first one, the first post with the green and yellow, that was kind of the Phoenix one, but the Dark Phoenix where the symbol grew and became much, much larger. That's kind of the one that they've stuck with ever since. With that much larger, they just keep swapping back to the green and yellow or the white and gold.
Wow. If I was on the editorial staff, I would have picked the white one in the middle. That looks perfect. It would have been a physical representation that she had completely changed, and it was absolutely sexy as hell. And I think it would have worked, but I guess we can only dream.
Anytime that involves Jean in crop tops and an exposed midriff, I'm good with it.
So I think they made a mistake, but of course the Dark Phoenix costume is quite iconic at this point.
Yes, it is.
All right, Doc. I think that's about going to wrap us up here today. You got anything else to say before we wrap up this week in X-Men?
Go buy some back issues, gentlemen and ladies. All us listeners, go buy back issues.
Yes, and if you buy back issues, that money does not go to DC or Marvel. It only goes to the LCS. I don't know who's spreading that stupid rumor, but it makes you look stupid if you say it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.